So your business is constantly mirroring back to you where you are with things. So, for example, the clients who show up to you are a mirror of either where you are right now or what your next level is. If you have clients showing up and you're like, who is this? Like, yuck, like what in the world? Well, that's where you are right now. So they're mirroring back to you where you are. And that means you got to work on yourself. So if they're like scarce and they're like
Mm-hmm.
asking for discounts and they're pushing back on price, well, that's a mirror of you.
Welcome to Tried and True with a Dash of Woo, where we're all about mixing tried and true strategies that actually work with the magic of manifestation and the science of programming your unconscious mind so that you walk away feeling integrated, inspired, and aligned. I'm Renee Bowen, certified life and business coach, professional photographer, middle-aged wife, and mom to now 3 grown kids. I've built 2 multiple 6-figure businesses with 0 business training by digging in, learning the methods, and now I'm here to pass them all on to you. From photography and business strategies to energy healing, human design, and the basics of manifestation, we cover it all here. I'm here to help you embrace your multi-passionate brains and lean into the fastest and most efficient ways to reach your goals, whatever they may be. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, or maybe you're just here for the woo-woo, let's dive in and explore all the exciting ways to take your life, business, and self-improvement to the next level. Thanks for joining me, and get ready to be inspired. Hello. Welcome back to Tried and True with a Dash of Woo. I am your host of this podcast, Renee Bowen. I hope you guys are having a phenomenal week and that the rest of your week goes just as well. And I just wanted to give a shout out to those of you guys who have left reviews for me recently. Thank you so much. I absolutely love nothing more than seeing you guys post about your thoughts on the show and what you think about it. And we've had some really awesome guests lately, and that is not going to change anytime soon. I've got like an amazing roster of guests coming up for y'all. And it's a mix of strategy and business stuff that you need to know about, and also all the woo, manifestation, mindset. We need both of these things in our lives. I mean, that's the whole premise of the show. So I hope that you guys are finding as much value in it as I find doing it for you. And I absolutely love hearing your feedback. So thank you so much. It's super easy to leave a review. In case you didn't know, you can just go to ratethispodcast.com/Renee Bowen and then just pick the platform, and it's all done less than 5 minutes, probably less than 2 minutes. And it makes a really big difference for me and for the growth of the show. So thank you so much. I've got a powerhouse of a guest for you guys today. Her name is Samantha Hartley, and she works with women consultants who are stuck on the revenue roller coaster or drowning in client work. And she helps them multiply revenues without exhaustion by working with perfect clients on transformational engagements so they can have profitable and joyful consultancies. She is the host of her own show called Profitable Joyful Consulting and the creator of the programs 6-Figure Engagements and The Path to 2 Million. Her passion is to empower women and girls to leverage their unique gifts to create financial independence through businesses. Her last job was in international marketing for the Coca-Cola Company in Moscow, Russia, and its Atlanta headquarters. She's an avid feminist, a hiker, and a vegan, and she lives in Martha's Vineyard with her husband and their fur kids. So we are going to talk about all things financial independence and how we can use strategy and woo to bring more financial abundance into your life. Let's get started. Hey, Samantha, thanks for being here. I'm super excited to chat with you today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So fun. Okay, so we're gonna just dive right in to the deep end here because I know that's where you like to be too. We're all
Good.
about melding the strategy and the woo here on this podcast, and I'd really love to start this episode asking specifically how we can kind of use both of those with relation to finances, right? Like that's your world. You,
Mhm.
you do a lot of that, especially with, female entrepreneurs and consultants and creatives. And so what are some both practical and spiritual ways that you love to bring in more money?
Well, I really love to have my clients and women in general think about the biggest thing they can imagine, like the biggest amounts of money they can imagine, because it's easy to say, well, then I want $10 million, but you don't actually have a receptacle for that, because that's like not true. So a lot of us have, we can call it like a thermostat, or we can call it whatever, but there's really going to be like a reality check on how much you feel like you can bring in. And so a lot of the work that I'm doing is expanding what that amount is, because when somebody tells me, well, I think, well, I want to charge this much, or I feel like I want to earn this much. And I'm like, when they tell it to me, I can usually feel their level of buy-in for that. So we have to really believe that number when we're saying it. And one of the spiritual gurus that we follow, his name is Matt Kahn, and we really love this thing that he says about affirmations, which is that we'll say, well, you can't affirm like, I am earning $10 million a year, because, well, I just don't believe that I am.
Right.
But what he says is, if you keep affirming it, it just goes from unfamiliar to more familiar. So realistically, I think a lot of my clients would say, I don't care about 10 million, but I really like the idea of like 2 million. I'm like, cool. So let's take the number that like is realistic and cool for you. And then just sit with that number and just get. So my business earns $2 million a year, or I bring in, and this is one of my favorite ways, from unexpected and unexpected places. My business
Mhm.
earns money, or I bring in revenue. I bring in money from expected and unexpected ways. And I just love affirmations as a way to get ourselves accustomed to hearing these kinds of numbers. And then I'm a big believer in law of attraction and also law of action. As a Virgo, I'm like super practical. So as woo as I am, to me, there's always a way to practicalize anything that we're talking about. So we take those affirmations and write them down as goals. And then I might say something like, well, while you're sitting in that space of like, I'm bringing in $2 million a year, what kind of ideas come into your mind of like what you could do, or who you could reach out to, or like what might that look like? And for a lot of my clients, like they'll be able to like have a next step from that. And if they don't, then I'm like, I'm here to ideate with you, and we'll come up with some ways that we can bring that in.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a Virgo too, so I know we definitely bond over that. And that's really, kind of how I think all the time. Like, yes, let's go woo, let's go big, right? Like, but like you said, we have to get sort of comfortable with that and also feel it in your body, right? Like, is that kind of
Yeah.
that other piece to it, like, oh, okay, yeah, I can say all the things I want, but if I don't feel it and I don't actually
Mhm.
get myself to experience it, the unconscious mind won't know that it's real. But I can tell my unconscious, I can make it feel like it's real. And that's
Totally.
the cool part. And I've heard you speak about this this sort of concept that I'm currently also low key obsessed with, which is this concept of like, what if it were easy, right? Like,
Yeah.
so let's kind of dive into that, expand on that a little bit, and like how creative entrepreneurs can kind of apply that mindset to their businesses. Because I know like people out there like, well, it's really easy to say like, what if it were easy? But what does that really like practically sort of
Mhm.
look like, you know?
I think it means delegating a lot more to the universe. This is the problem, is that it is hard when we're doing everything ourselves. And I know for a lot of women, they don't necessarily feel like they have a strong support system around themselves, but there's a support system in the universe that is like, I always think of it as like they're waiting for you to just give them something to do. And the
Yeah.
more that I've worked with this in this way, the more I've started to believe that they really are like, would you just come give me like a task or an assignment or something? If you just imagine them, I'm saying them, but
Yeah.
whoever this is, but the universe, it's like what can you delegate to the universe today? And so when I'll call out women for overwork, because we're doing this thing where we're like, I feel like I have to do absolutely every single thing myself. And I'm like, well, what if it were easy? Well, if it were easy, somebody else would be doing anything at all. Okay, cool. Well, delegate that something else. So if we can be clear that the thing that I can do are, in business, we're going to call those lead indicators. Those are the things that I can actually do something about. So I can show up, I can set my goals, I can figure out where my perfect clients are, where I might go to meet them, I can reach out to 3 different people, I can post on socials. Like those are the things that are in my power. And then I need to let the universe know what I expect to be happening when I'm not doing that work. And so what do I imagine? I feel like a lot of people are not sure about what they expect to have happen. Like they're not clear on what it would look like when success happens. So then the universe is like, well, do you want like, well, here's somebody. And they're like, no, I don't want that. Or they're like, well, here's somebody offering you a project or a job or something. And you're like, that's not what I want to do. Okay, well, are you really clear on what you want to do? I think it's a lot like when people are kind of playing around with Chat GPT and you put a prompt in and they get some
Huh?
nonsense out of it. And what we've learned is you have to say, here's the prompt. And then you're like, tell back to me what I just told to you. So I know that you understand me. And then I'll say something back and you're like, no, 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 here's what I want. And then it gives you what you want. I feel like if we can just be like that with the universe, of just like, let me be clear about what I want. And what I have people do, I usually have it on my desk. Actually, I do have it. I have my clients write down on a post-it, not a post-it, not this wall chart thing, this little teeny 1 by 1 inch post-it. This is what I want. So I had a friend I was working with who's she does like astrology stuff and somatic experiencing and things like that. And she had heard me talk about this concept, and I was like, okay, so what do you want? What is the goal? And she was like, well, and it was like a long thing. And I was like, it's a post-it. And she goes, $20,000 a month, consistent revenue, and then something profit on that. And I was like, that's the answer. So write that down, like $20,000 a month consistently. I can, like, if I'm the universe, I'm like, noted, got it. And then that can happen.
Okay, I love that visual because again, like so many creatives in this audience. And as a creative, like that's what we do. We're usually very visual thinkers. And so making it really clear and not a bigger post-it, a 1 inch
No,
post-it. That's the thing.
too big.
That's the thing to think about because like, even these are too big. And I love
Yes.
that because it's like your little post-it to the universe, right? Like this
Yes.
is it. And I hear that so much too, like in my coaching business, like well, what do you want? I don't know. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's such a big like thing. It's like I feel like a lot of us, and even photographers, if we're just kind of shifting gears, but same thing, like, okay, well, what kind of business do you want? I don't know. I just want to make money. Okay, we got to get a little bit more clarity because unless you're clear on it, you can't tell the universe what you want. And it's just going to keep giving you, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's just a mirror. It's going to reflect exactly what you tell it.
Big Abraham Hicks person. One of the things that they will talk about is if you're not sure what you want, then what you can ask the universe is, I don't know what I want. Um, Help me see what I want. And to me, it's kind of like inviting the universe to show you like the dessert platter at the restaurant when they bring the whole thing out. I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't know, like what is there? So I think a lot of us, especially creative people, because we're powerful and we can make things happen, we want to be careful about what we make happen. We want to be intentional about what we make happen. And so when we're asked, what do you want? We're like, I don't know, because I don't want to say something and then not like that. So what's possible for me? So this is the thing you can affirm is, all right, for the next few weeks, I want the universe to show me what's possible for me. I want you to show me examples of what could happen for me. I want to see other people's businesses. I want to see houses and stuff that I like. I want to see vacation. I want to see somebody resting in a way that I would love to rest. Like just invite the universe to show you on the menu. And that way you can begin to ask for and invite what you want to have happen.
Yeah, I love that because and I'm a super big fan as well. I listen to a lot of that. Just even sometimes randomly, like if I just need a boost, I'm like, oh, just gonna like pop that on real quick, and whatever I need to hear today is what I'm gonna hear, And
Totally.
it's like a little reframe, like gets me right back in. But it's so true. It's like the contrast is also super important, right? And sometimes when we ask to be shown, like, okay, what do I want? Well, sometimes we're gonna find what we don't want, and that's important too, right? It's important for us
Yeah.
to have that contrast
Yes.
of like, yeah, that's a no. And the thing that I see so many people, so many women especially do is not honor the no, right? They just go, oh, that's for me because it's obviously coming to me and I'm not going to turn money down. I can't turn money down. Can you? So can you speak to that a little bit too? Because I know you probably see a lot of that as well. So how can we kind of, say no? Because we know that when we're saying yes to too many things, obviously we're getting burnt out and we're also saying no to good stuff.
Yeah. In our language, in my spiritual group, we refer to it as the divine no. It's saying no to all of the wrong things so that you can say yes to the right things. And it's like it's done from it's the feminine. It's a feminine boundary. It's not like this, no, no, shut down. It's a feminine boundary of like, no, you can't have the cookies before dinner. You can have cookies after dinner. And no, you can't do whatever. But it's no to the wrong thing or the wrong timing. And I have a client working with recently who has had a very successful business before, like hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenues, but it was $5,000 at a time, which for my clients is a very low number. So I'm trying to get her to work with fewer clients for a larger amount of money. And so
Mm-hmm.
most of my clients are, what we're looking at is $25,000 packages and above, a 6-month engagement and above that. So she's been gradually, she'd never sold those things before. So I've only been working with her for 7 weeks. She's totally a beast implementer. And she's been able to say no, which was incredibly hard for her because she didn't want to lose this feeling of the bird in the hand. Well, I'm already talking to them and they want this. And I'm like, you have to turn that down. If you say no to that, what you're going to find is either the very same person that you said no to will come running back to you and be like, okay, like they took a
Mm-hmm.
shot. They didn't know, either they didn't know that something else was possible, or they actually want it more than they wanted to negotiate. So she's been dealing with a little bit of negotiation. And I'm like, no, we don't negotiate. So because she said no to them, she's getting them to say yes to what she wants. And if you have a blanket, I don't negotiate policy or don't give discounts, or when you have blanket policies like that, there can always be exceptions, but the opposite cannot be true. If you're always negotiating and everything's always discountable and all of that kind of stuff, then it turns into a mess. So she's really been working on staying strong, not negotiating, and it's allowing her to close the biggest engagements of her life and get the results that she wanted. And I feel like sometimes when we're alone, it's harder to do that. And when you have somebody who can kind of like give you the tools for a conversation to stay strong, then you can do that better. So she's closed a 6-month engagement, which she'd never had a 6-month one before. She's closed a $6,000 a month, which is the most that had ever been, et cetera. So things are going great because she's standing firm about turning things down. If you say yes, I'm adamant about perfect clients. Who you work with in your business is the biggest determiner of profit and joy. It's the same way of saying who you work with in the business is the biggest determiner of how much money you're going to lose, how expensive they're going to be energetically and psychically, and all of the things, and how much misery you're going to tolerate. So you can only work with perfect clients. So if you accept anything less than a perfect client, what happens is I find I'm just tormented by them. And every
Mm-hmm.
time somebody shows up who is just not a fit for me and I turn them down, as hard as that can be, 3 great ones line up right behind them. So this is a real piece of faith in the universe and in yourself of like, but if I turn this down, I'll never get anything again. You have to believe that the universe has your back and there'll be more after that. In my experience, every single time that has been the case.
Yeah, that's really a great affirmation for people to hear because yeah, and it's a scarcity thing too. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes,
it's just
totally
like
scarce.
so it's easy. It's just easy to stay in scarcity because it's the comfort zone. It's the unconscious thinks it's safe, blah, 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 all
Yeah.
of those
Yeah.
things. And so it just keeps pulling you back and there's no effort required to stay in that
Yeah.
comfort zone. Like you can just stay there, but you're going to still keep emitting that same frequency and getting the same clients as well. And that's another thing that I see a lot, like we're in different fields for sure, but there's a lot of similarities there, I think, in terms of like this perfect client that you talk about a lot. I always talk about target client, ideal client, and even with photographers, creatives in general, that is so important because if you're not attracting them, first of all, that's an issue, right? You got to be able to understand how to attract them first, I believe. And once you sort of get them into your universe, okay, then it's a lot easier then to work with them just in general. It's the attracting the wrong people that I see a lot of. And a lot of that I think is because
Right.
they're staying in that I need work and I just need to work with everybody. So I love that, if you guys are listening to this, that you hear that affirmation of that feminine empowered no. It can still, that boundary is very, very important. And it doesn't have to be heavy handed and it doesn't have to feel, like you said, super masculine. You can still stay in your feminine. And actually that's that flow state that more things happen anyway. But honoring it and knowing that the universe has your back and knowing that when you say like trusting, that is the hardest thing that I see all of my clients struggle with is the trust. How do you work with your clients on building that muscle? That's a really big thing in my world, I see.
It's huge. I think it starts with a worldview of, is the universe on my side or isn't it? And as I mentioned, I'm in spiritual community with people, and some of us are just either born or raised with like the universe has my back, and then some people just feel like, no, I'm not really sure about that. And I feel like that's the basic spiritual work that we have to do all the time, is to really cultivate a relationship with of trust with the universe, or at least neutrality. If you can only get to like a neutral, like, I don't really know that it has my back, but at least it's not like constantly like tormenting me for no reason. Uh, in terms of your own skills, like a lot of us, I think a lot of people are raised where, especially women, they're raised like, well, I can count on me, and that's about it. So I'll just be in charge. Everyone's lucky that I'm in charge, and so I'll just do everything myself. Thanks. Uh, so if that is our belief, then I think the thing that we need to be able to do is to trust that we can make things happen. We can make the results happen that we want to have happen. And I really feel like you just build up a track record with yourself. If you watch your actions, and you get results day by day, you get better at them. When I see people flip out of this, into its opposite, is when they're expecting, like, you're either born lucky or you're born good, but not both. What has helped me is realizing that I can develop muscles. Like, I can get better at marketing. I can get braver at showing up and doing difficult things, like going to networking meetings, or applying to be the speaker at that conference, or asking, approaching that school and saying, I'd like to be your go-to person for this event. Like, you can just, you can develop these skills like a muscle. A friend and I are practicing, we're learning remote viewing, which
Hmm.
we're brand new at. But it seems like a thing that is completely impossible when you start. And we both are kind of good out of the gate. It's been remarkable how we're kind of like, we're actually really good at it. When you look at what we're remote viewing, and you imagine that somebody's holding a photograph of something that could be anything in the entire world, or they have a box and it has something inside of it that could be anything in the entire world. Um, and we're landing a lot of things that are accurate. So uh, what's hard to believe, though, is that I can get better at this. This is actually a muscle, and relatively speaking, I'm actually not that good relative to where I can be. So if all of us look at our initial skills of like, well, if you played piano, can you get better at playing the piano if you practice? Yes. So it's, you put the reps in. To
Hmm.
me, to go all the way back to this like trust, I have to put the reps in on something abstract like trust, just like I would with remote viewing or playing the piano or any other thing that I just want to get better at. Putting the reps in means I show up even when I'm starting to lose hope about it, and I'm like, I do the things that are hard. I do the things that are like one step outside of my comfort zone, and I do that. And my language to my clients is, we do this stuff as a demonstration of our commitment to the universe. Your clients won't necessarily come to you through your marketing. They're going to come to you through your energy. But nevertheless, we do the marketing because it's a demonstration of my commitment to the universe. I may have somebody who just I meet on an airplane one day and they turn
Hmm.
into a client. Well, how do you account for that in your marketing? You don't, but that's how the universe works. However, does that mean I stop doing my socials? No, it means I show up all the time and I'm consistent in my marketing. I'm consistent in the things I should be doing.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point. Um, such a there's a lot there, but what I really love especially is the resonance that you just touched upon, right? Because and kind of going back to that perfect client and like the marketing, all of that is so tied into it. That I always kind of talk about, especially like in what I do with photographers specifically, like one of the biggest things I hear all the time is that, well, I can't raise my prices. No, like no one's going to pay whatever, five, $6,000 for this because, I wouldn't do that. And my first thing is like, well, first of all, you are not your target client,
Yeah.
but that resonance does start with you, right? So I really
Hmm.
do believe that your vibe attracts, right? Like just like what you're saying. So that's why it's so important
Totally.
to honor that and to like get really good at the kind of vibe you want to put out. What's that radio beacon? What are you emitting? Because you are going to bring that back to you. But then it's that other piece of, okay, well, that's sort of where that like, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily pay $5,000 or $6,000 for this service because I can do it for myself. So of course I
Right.
wouldn't hire you, but I would pay that for something else that I value, right? And so that, sort of belief system that comes in there, but it's putting in those daily reps of the trust. I like how you break it down to that specifically, because sometimes when people are so in it, and those of us who deal with anxiety, and I don't know, as a fellow Virgo, like I think I just came out anxious. You know what I mean? Like it's just like in our DNA for some reason. And it's just been this
Yeah.
ongoing opportunity, as I like to call it, to work through it. I think that there's a lot of gold in it. If we look at it and say, okay, well, this is obviously triggering for a reason. And so those of us who have sort of that, it can feel heavy and big at times. Sometimes that's all you can do is just really just trust and build the muscle of trust as much as possible and show up as you're doing it and just show up, even when, right? And so I think that's a really good point for people to remember that resiliency and then getting back up and that you are going to get better and nothing is permanent. Nothing,
Yeah, for
especially those
sure. For
feelings,
sure.
you know? And you talk a lot about in your content too, which I love about this idea of expanding yourself to expand your business. And I really feel like
Hmm.
that sort of fits in line with that as well. What are some practical steps that entrepreneurs, like female entrepreneurs especially, can do to implement this idea of expanding themselves so that the business expands as well? Because it's a reflection.
It's literally, well, not literally at all, but metaphorically, it's completely a reflection. So your business is constantly mirroring back to you where you are with things. So, for example, the clients who show up to you are a mirror of either where you are right now or what your next level is. If you have clients showing up and you're like, who is this? Like, yuck, like what in the world? Well, that's where you are right now. So they're mirroring back to you where you are. And that means you got to work on yourself. So if they're like scarce and they're like
Hmm.
asking for discounts and they're pushing back on price, well, that's a mirror of you. I never, Renee, I can count on one hand the number of times I've asked for a refund for something. I mean, it has got to be absolute just shit for me to say I want a refund
Yeah.
on what I bought because I don't need that energy in my life. I don't attract it. I am the kind of client for the people who I'm client for that I expect my clients to be. And I
Hmm.
think expectation is a huge piece here. So, what do I expect the universe to give me? So, when people show up for me, as potential clients, I recognize immediately who somebody is as a perfect client or not. So if there's anything that you see in that person that you feel like doesn't resonate with you, then you get to say, I don't think they're my client. And maybe they're somebody else's client. I used to joke that if you have somebody come to you and you don't want to work with them, you can refer them to someone that you don't like. It's a joke, but if you don't like them and you don't like the other person, like maybe who knows, like maybe they'll get along. Like there's no accounting for taste. But if you're
Right.
getting pushback on price, it means you're not clear on your own value. If people are coming to you and you're like, I don't know why this person is coming to me for this stuff, it means your marketing messages aren't clear. If
Hmm.
you're, etc. So very often, if you look at what your business is, what's happening in your business, it'll tell you what's going on with you. So a lot of times I'll go in and the my clients' books will be a mess, and I'll be like, "Well, how much money did you earn last month?" And they're like, "I don't know." I'm like, "Okay, well, how about like last year?" I have no idea. I'm like, "What do you
What do you
know?"
know?
Yeah, like you have to know this stuff. So those books are a mirror of your head, of what's in your head, and like when you start to get fluent with the money piece and comfortable with the money piece, the universe will trust you to send you more of it. I was just with friends this past week and they laugh at me because I pick up pennies and I'm like, a penny is the smallest part of $1 million. And the universe sees how you are being with money. And if you can't handle a penny, it's not going to give you more. If your books are a mess, the universe isn't motivated to give you more money. If your, credit cards are all like overdrawn and all a mess, listen, I don't judge because I have been there. I've had the credit card
Yeah.
debt out the wazoo. I've had like crazy stuff out of control. And then one day I was like, dude, I want to be rich. I cannot be rich with these behaviors. So we cut real back. I worked on bringing in more money. We like got our act together, our financial act together, because I want to be a good steward of money.
Yeah.
And now I can tell the universe in good faith, like, bring it because I'm ready to do this. There's an education piece and there's like also a deservingness piece. You are worthy. You have inherent value. You don't need to be different in order to bring in more money. Behaviorally, though, you might need to be.
Yeah. That's okay. So that I'd love to dive into a little bit more because that is, I think, where people get like, huh? You know what I mean? I've seen it happen. I totally, I'm right there with you. Like that, there's exactly the same things that I will say to people constantly. But that concept, like you just mentioned, okay, let's say someone, like you said before, there's a lot of debt. They're mishandling, like they don't know. And I see this a lot. I see this a lot with photographers specifically. I'll ask them how much they made last year and how much they want to make this year, and they have no idea whatsoever. And money is like the most taboo subject. Obviously, that's all their programming. It's not even their story, blah, 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 that whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But the getting out of it part, right? That part of like, okay, well, to be abundant, I have to be abundant. To be,
Yeah.
to want to be rich, then I need
Yeah.
to, be in that energy of it. How do you do that without overspending? How do you
Right.
see what I'm saying? Like that's the question I always get. So I'd
Totally.
love to hear what you have to say about how you can be responsible and have good behaviors, but also be in abundance so that it does come.
Yeah. So the first thing is to like get a realistic picture of what the situation is, and then get a realistic like plan of how you're going to get where you need to be. So $1,000 in debt and realistically pay off, $100 of that a month. Okay, fine. Then that's what I'm going to be doing until something different changes. And what I think is really critical for business owners is we can earn. We don't have the thing that people who have a salary have. Like I guess they can get a part-time job, but like we can make more money in our businesses. And so really
Mhm.
the focus to me, I've never felt like something was out of my control because I feel like, well, I can always earn more money. I'll figure it out, but I'll bring in more money. A couple of ways you can bring in more money is that you can work with a client twice as long, so you can double the package. You can increase your prices,
Mhm.
or you can extract something and charge for that separately. So if you've always bundled everything into a single price for photography, for example, you can bring out this something here that normally it would just be bundled in and be like, give it a fancy name, and you're also going to be getting this thing, and that's this much money. So there are ways to create those packages, but in general, like think big about the top line of your business. Now we're back to our debt. I'm going to be chipping away at that debt. I'm going to be thinking of all of the ridiculous things that I'm spending on, and I'm going to move that money to that. However, in my past, in my leanest days, Renee, when I was like, oh my God, we don't have enough money. We need to really downsize everything. And so we lived our kind of like our poor life, is what I would call it. In some ways, it was kind of fun. We would like sit at the bar and share a dinner and go to the cheap movie theater. Like that was kind of
Yeah.
fun. However, what I can tell you is, um, it didn't make a difference to how much I was earning because I always had enough money to cover my bills. When we started living our rich life, I I always have enough money to cover my bills. Like the first time I hired a coach who was like $1,500 a month, and I was like, oh my God, 1,500. And I was really careful to make sure that that money was always there when that debited. It was always there, even though it
Right.
would have been impossible to think about that before. So I find for a lot of people, your life expands, your ability to cover expenses expands by how big your life gets. But some specific things that I love to do are going to like the fanciest hotel and like have tea in the lobby,
Mhm.
even if the tea is like $15, you're like in the Ritz-Carlton having tea in the lobby or whatever, or you go to lunch at the like dress up and go to lunch at the really nice place, and you have an experience of yourself in that atmosphere. And a few things happen. In the beginning, we were talking about like when things are kind of far from you. In the beginning, you might have this like imposter complex and feel like, I don't belong here. Oh my gosh, I have like all of this like fraudulence happening. Eventually, you're like, I fit in. Oh, here I am. They know me, or I'm back, or I recognize this, or I have my favorite thing on the menu, and then it becomes your place. So you're getting yourself accustomed to a richer life.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good because there's so many things you can do and it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money like you said. Like you can still be smart and be abundant. You can still be smart and put yourself in the energetic space of that frequency, right? Because also you never know who you're going to meet in those places as well. And so that's
True.
the other side of it, right? And like you like just you can't know about that unless you put yourself in those places. And I definitely think that, the imposter that you hit, the imposter syndrome that you hit on a little
Yeah.
bit too, is really big, because imposter syndrome is really, you've just never done it before. Like you said, like
Yeah.
it's new to you. So I think that we sort of make it a lot bigger than it needs to be, this whole like fraudulent feeling, of course, because we create our own stories up here. And it's really easy to just kind of fall prey to that and be like, oh, I'm an imposter. And just like one little thought sinks in, and then it just like attracts all the others. But really, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, the more you do it, the more you show up, the more you actually take action and do it, the easier it gets, because you're no longer new. It's no longer
Right.
you. You are creating that experience every time you do it. And I don't know, are you a fan of, or have you probably worked with Dr. Joe Dispenza? Have you looked
Oh,
into
yeah,
all
yeah.
that stuff? Obviously, yes. And so
Definitely.
I
Love him.
love
Yes.
how, yes. So we know that we don't even have to physically do some of these things, right? Like we can literally meditate, and we can get to these places where we are even building actual muscles. If you're talking about like muscles in your body, I'm sure the studies that he's
Yeah.
done where, the muscles in the body actually respond. So if we can do that, then we can actually do that. We can fix this imposter stuff, and we can build the muscle of resilience and showing up and trust, which I think is really the hardest part for so many people. So that being said, and we touched on it just a little bit, but I do want to ask you a quick question about branding, right? Like, I mean, like
Hmm.
you talked about showing up, you talked about, yeah, it doesn't mean that I can't not show up. It doesn't mean that I can't, just because I'm resonating and I'm sitting here
Yeah.
resonating all this stuff, I still have to show up and market and kind of do my things. That's that action taking, right?
Yeah.
Um, what is how big of that role, right, is in what you do with consultants, and also just like creatives in general? Because as creatives, it's a big thing I hear too, is like, I am doing all the things, I'm wearing all the hats in my business, and I don't
Yeah.
like being online, and I don't like being on camera, and blah 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 blah, right? Like, so what do you how
Yeah.
do you reframe that for your clients?
It's, a lot of them resist all of the things that, I mean, my clients one is a very creative person who happens to just do $250,000 engagements on leadership with large corporations, but she's very artsy. And the way we do business planning is she has this big deck of images, and we say she is feeling like this right now and doesn't want to feel that way anymore. And this picture of children playing is how she does want to feel. And this picture of like, I don't know, this sad old oak tree, it feels is how her social media feels. And she wants to like, we are doing that kind of thing with her. And um, it's like, you're going to find your own way in is key. As far as branding, to me, it's the answer to what do you want to be known for or known as. And so
Mhm.
figuring out what that is absolutely critical. And the way to start is to ask people, like, right now, what are you known for or known as? If you were going to refer someone to me, what would you say? If you were going to describe me in 3 words, what would you say? So really kind of getting a baseline for what you're known for right now, and then figuring out, like, over time, the goal of the intention of your social media, intention of your marketing is going to be to get you known for that. I have one client right now who frustrates me to no end. She has done no marketing ever. She has no social media whatsoever, and she has a huge business. But here's the deal. What's her marketing? Well, she's extremely well known for a certain thing she does. She's extremely niched and
Mm,
specialized in what she does. And so people are like, if you need this, you call her. So she has that from a very large company who sends her tons of business, and then referral partners. So she's just known, and she's done enough work with them that now that it starts to perpetuate itself. So
mhm.
the original people that she worked with now refer people and refer people. So if we could all be that lucky, that would be wonderful. And it's still very reactive. So I wouldn't want my whole business to be that reactive. I would still want to be visible and want to generate my own leads rather than kind of being at the mercy of like who happens to show up when. And I would really want to be able to take charge of what I'm known for.
Hmm.
So she's receiving leads who are being sent to her, but what are those people being told? If she's wanting to kind of expand or pivot or whatever, then those ones are coming from they're from the past. They're who she was rather than who she is or wants to be. So it's working out fine, but our next steps are to figure out what that baseline is right now, what she's known for, and then begin to paint a picture of who she wants to be and who she wants to attract. So to me, when I consider like, do you need to niche? Do you need to specialize? So in my world, a niche is like the market that you're serving, and the specialty is the thing that you're doing. And the overlay of both of those is when it's more powerful, if it's possible to do something like that.
Mhm.
So originally, when I left the Coca-Cola company, I was working with businesses in general, and I was doing international marketing because that made the most sense. And then I started to just do like marketing for small businesses. So you can hear marketing is the specialty, and small businesses is the niche, even though it's not that small a niche, honestly. And then the more I worked, the more I realized that I wanted to work more specifically with consultants, executive coaches, like those kinds of businesses, expert businesses, and then do marketing for them. But really, what started to happen was that what I do with my clients now is so expansive because I'm doing everything from mindset to marketing. We'll talk about their team, we'll talk about all kinds of different things, that it's really about overall business growth, but it's still for consultants, and it got even more niche down to women consultants. So you can hear that the specialty increases and the niche is well, the specialty in my case kind of went away. It's much more broad, but the niche is there. So if you're thinking about like what and for you, that's your example, is like, who do I want to do this for? And like, what segment of the population, of the total population, do I want to do this for? And which of my gifts and skills do I want to bring to that particular market? In photography, I love to go where the money is. So I would look at corporate photography. I would look at, luxury travel, all those kinds of things. I think those would be super fun.
Mhm.
And if you're like, yes, but I love kids and families and people, awesome, do that. And within those audiences, there are the higher end people who really want to invest something more in that. What I think
Yeah.
is so interesting about photography is how, with the rise of the iPhone, everybody was like, never mind, I can just do this myself. And all of us are realizing, there's still something to know.
Yeah.
So why do I go get headshots taken? Because I'm like, because when I take pictures with my phone, they're hit or miss. So really, finding those people who value the thing that you offer is key.
Yeah, and your branding is key to that. Like that's the marketing and the branding piece of it, right? Like you
Hmm.
can't find them if they can't find you, right? They need to know that you're
Exactly.
out there. You need to be available in general to the universe and also physically, literally.
Yeah,
And also understanding who you're targeting. That's a huge, huge part of it. Because yeah, like that's really what I focus on is a more, a boutique full service photography experience, portrait photography, but it is for people who value photography. It is for people who do spend a lot of money on a single experience for either their family, their high school senior, their branding, whatever it is. Um, and the belief that, you know, you are going to find proof basically of whatever you believe, obviously. And there's just a lot,
absolutely.
a lot of people will continue to believe that, well, no one has money right now, so that's just a dying thing. Just like when the iPhone came out and everybody was freaking out because photography is going to die, that didn't happen. And there's still plenty of people with
Yeah,
money. You're just not looking. You're not finding proof of it because you're not looking for it. And it's one of the it's that belief. There's you're going to do it or you're not. Like you said before, you're either going to stay in this place or you're going to be called to this future version of yourself. But this has been so fun. This has been just a great conversation. I don't want to keep you here all day, but I do want to dive really quickly before we wrap up into all the way woo, because I know you can go all the way woo like I can. And first of all, you said, okay, so you're a fellow Virgo. Do you know your big three, your rising and
mhm.
your moon?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm a Sagittarius rising, which is why you think I have a great big personality when you meet me out in public. But I have a Cancer moon, which means that when I'm not
Ah,
big and out in public, I'm at home on a couch with a covered in dogs and cats, reading
love.
my
I
phone.
love that. Yeah, I would have maybe pegged a little bit of Capricorn in there, but maybe that's the Virgo coming through. But yeah, for sure. Cancer is my midheaven. So it's very
Mm.
interesting about like because it'll show up in my coaching a lot, like more so than I ever thought. Like I don't have a ton of water, and the water I do have is Scorpio. So that's a whole other thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just run away from
Yeah.
Scorpios as a blanket
Same.
statement.
Same. I don't know what it is, but like in my youth, it was the only men I ever dated were all Scorpios until finally I was like, what is happening? But it's been really funny. I have like a stellium in Virgo though. Like I'm so Virgo. It's like ridiculous. But with a Libra rising, so that is like again with your Sag rising, that's the same thing.
Ah,
It's like people think I'm very social,
good.
blah blah blah. But I'm like, oh no, I'm an INTJ. I would like to be home. Um, I would definitely not like to be doing all the things all the time. What about your human
Yeah.
design? Are you a Manny Gen?
Yeah.
Yeah, that checks out.
I don't know the human design as I don't know the human design as well, but I think it's what is the other one? It's is there a seed something?
Oh,
It must be a managen is the right thing.
I think, well, do you
But
know
I
your
do know the
profile?
Myers-Briggs.
Oh yeah, what's that?
So my Myers-Briggs, I'm an XNFP, but I was going to ask you about being a
Oh,
T because a lot of times women who are a T on Myers-Briggs get the feedback that they're cold.
yes.
Interesting, yeah.
That goes along with being a Virgo too, though, I think. And I also have an Aries moon, which I call like big dick energy. Um, that's
Yeah, good,
that's
good.
very much like my absolutely not. You know what I mean? And it's so funny because
Uh-huh.
of my kids, I have twins, and my twins both have Sag rising. They're Libras with Sag rising, and they both have Aries moon. And I'm married to an Aries, and so there is like
So many horns, so many horns around there. Love it.
it can be a lot. Okay. So thank you so much for showing up for me today and showing up for us and like really just like laying all of this awesomeness down because I can talk about this kind of stuff all day, every day, as I know you can too. And I know that there's a lot of people who are going to walk away with a lot of really good nuggets from today. So tell everybody where they can connect with you if they want to reach out to you. I know that, you know, you work in this very specific space, but like what's next for you? Like, do you have anything like fun on the horizon? That kind of stuff.
We always have fun stuff spiritually going on. I mentioned the remote viewing. That's the things that I can mention in
Yes.
public. We have a lot of stuff that we don't mention in
Yes.
public that I can like wink, wink, wink at you about that are always wonderful and exciting adventures into the fifth dimension.
Love.
Uh, um, I'm really like I'm just super, super uh motivated, driven, like passionate. Like I'm here to enrich women. And so if when women are ready to really step into their power and get richer, then I'll have a message. It may sound like it's for somebody else, but that's the message for you. And if you're listening to this, there's a reason you're hearing it, and you deserve to be rich just exactly as you are. You don't have to change. You don't have to become anyone different. You deserve to be rich. And live a rich life and be enriched in every way. So I'm on all the socials, Samantha Hartley, and a good, cool little free thing that I offer is something called the Definitive Guide to Winning Six-Figure Clients. It's got a little more of
Mhm.
a corporate focus, but you may want some corporate clients. And also, it's just a lot of the mindset shifts around how you need to think about doing something like bringing in six figures from a single client. Like that's totally possible. I personally know photographers. I have some of my first perfect clients were photographers. I personally know photographers who do engagements like that,
Mhm.
doing lots of good work. So you can find that at sixfigureclients.com with the numeral six, figureclients.com.
I
That's
will
it.
definitely put
I'd
all
love
of
to
that
meet
in
you.
the
So reach out.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll put all of those links too in the show notes for people so they don't have to remember. But that's really, really cool. I love that. And yes, it is possible. So thank you for that little last bit of fire you just dropped. Thank you so much for being here. It was so great meeting you.
It's super fun to talk with you. Ciao.
So many nuggets to walk away with from this episode. I really love that takeaway at the very end there. You're worthy right now. You're worthy right now, not next year. I often have clients that I'm working with, I actually have one right now, who had just sent me a question about that this morning. And she's like, I know that we talked about raising my prices and we've done the numbers and we've gotten clear on, you know, where she's been and where she wants to go. But there's this, okay, well, should I wait though? Should I just kind of ease into it? No, shouldn't ease. You shouldn't ease into it. You can just do it. You can just do it right now. You don't have to wait to be worthy in 2025. You can be worthy right now. And the sooner you do it, the better. Just burn the boats. If you guys don't know that saying, right? Like, so it goes back to, I'm going to butcher it, some war, some general from some war back when they had, ships. So a long time ago. And that was the thing. Like they went to conquer this island and he said, when we get there, burn the boats because we're not leaving. We are going to conquer this island. And so sometimes that's just the attitude we have to have with ourselves, because left to our own devices, that trust and the fear is just going to get too big. And it's so easy to stay in that and to stay in scarcity when you burn your boats and when you just dive in to the deep end and you just go for it and you do it and you trust and you know that you are taken care of and that universe has your back. Guess what? It just does. So if you needed to hear that today, you're welcome. Thank you guys for joining me. As always, it is a pleasure to have you here, and I'm so honored that you choose to spend this time with us. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your week. I love you. Bye.